Hey there, I'm here today with Erik Cooper, all the way from Indianapolis, Indiana, coming to Bucharest, Romania. We're going to spend a little time together, and Erik and I've got to know each other for probably at least close to 10 years now, or I've known of you more than you've known me. And Erik just has an amazing story of impact through business, and we're all about businesses doing good. And you guys are a nonprofit, chose to be a nonprofit that actually makes money and does great things with it. So we want to dive into that today.
Sure.
So Erik, is this your first time in Romania?
Yeah, see, I was here maybe 25 years ago before I was married.
Okay.
I think probably early 90s. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been
right
a while.
After communism,
Yeah,
then you
right
guys
after
were here.
communism. Yep.
Wow,
Yep.
that's pretty rare. And what were you
Yep.
doing here at that time?
We were here with a music team from
Okay.
our church, and so
Nice.
it was. We were in Bucharest for a short time, but we were out, in the countryside and around various places. But yeah, I have a very distinct and fond memories of experiencing this place for the first time. But it's been almost a quarter of a century now. It's hard to believe.
And around that time, your dad started a nonprofit, CRF, Community Reinvestment Foundation.
That's correct.
Tell us about that, because that story is almost like before its time. Like the stuff you guys were doing,
Right.
if you were to do it now, it's cutting edge.
Sure.
And you guys they did it 30 years ago.
Yeah. So, really the genesis of CRF, we're an affordable housing business. So we own, manage, and construct affordable housing, so apartment complexes. I think our smallest is 48 units,
Wow.
all the way up to about 400 unit apartment complexes. We have them all over the state of Indiana. And so the genesis of the company really goes back to 1992. My father was an entrepreneur. When I was a kid, he worked for a CPA firm. Then he, with two other guys, bought a bunch of nursing homes. So for most of the 1980s, they were in the nursing home business. Then he was in the restaurant business when I was in high school. Always good for your dad to own a restaurant when you're in high school.
Make you friends.
Yeah, but in the early 90s, he had sold out of all of those businesses, and he was kind of looking for what's next.
Yeah.
So my dad grew up in a pastor's home, so faith was always a big part of our life. But my grandfather was a pastor, but my dad had really made his way in the marketplace. He had made his way as an entrepreneur and in business, and so I think he was feeling, like, what could I do with this next part of my life that would take the skills I have and do something beautiful, something that reflected his faith, something that reflected his heritage. And so he, along with another real estate developer friend of ours, and then the retiring pastor of our church at that time, they were all sitting around talking one day, and they were saying, "Hey, what can we do to impact some of the missional work that our pastor was doing?" So he was retiring. He was going into full-time fundraising to do all kinds of missions type work all over the world. And so these guys said, what if we could take our skill set and utilize that to help him in these endeavors? And so my dad said, well, what if we started a business? And there was an opportunity at that time in the affordable housing business. So they leveraged their skills to start buying apartments with the idea that at the end of every year, half of their profits would go back into developing the business, would go back into buying more housing, and the other half of the profits would go to our pastor to underwrite a lot of the work that he was doing. And so they started doing that when there was no money. It's easy to give away half of nothing.
That's right.
But now, 27 years later, we've been able to give away millions of dollars to, great work around the world. And we own 2,600 units is how we say it, 2,600 units of apartments all over the state of Indiana. And we figure on any given day, depending on how many people live in each of the units, but if you take an average, that we provide high quality, we hope, affordable housing for between 5,000 and 6,000 people every day around the state of Indiana. So that was kind of the genesis of the company. It was basically some business guys saying, how do we do something beautiful with our skill sets? And, starting a business that both ministers to people through housing and then also ministers to people by the overflow or the money that we're able to make through the business and how we can invest that into doing beautiful things around the world.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
Now explain, a lot of people in Romania or might not know the term affordable housing.
Okay.
Because sometimes housing is not.
Yeah.
Explain the government program briefly, or what is affordable housing in the States, and kind of what is the goal of that?
Yeah, well, the American government's been through a number of iterations on how they've handled affordable housing, but really almost all new affordable housing is done through a tax credit program. And this is a way that they incentivize private dollars to come into to solve a public problem or to help with a public problem. So what will happen, basically just in layman's terms, that they will give a developer like us an allocation of tax credits that we then go to sell to people who have high tax bills.
Okay. Yeah, big companies.
And big companies. They all have to be big companies. And these companies will buy these tax credits, which helps lower their tax liability, but then brings those dollars in to help build affordable housing.
Nice.
And so we as the developers can use those tax credits, but all of our housing, just to make it simple, is aimed at people who make 60% of the average income of an area or below.
Okay.
So whatever the average income is for that area, if you take that number times 60%, we're building and providing housing mostly for people who are at that level or below.
Okay. Right.
So,
okay.
that
So
makes
they
sense.
wouldn't necessarily be able to afford maybe traditional apartments and rent in their market.
Yep.
And so you guys are providing an option. The state the government is providing some finances and incentives to help you guys make that profitable for you.
Yep.
And so you're solving a real market need.
Yep.
The government's has a creative mechanism that allows the financing for it.
That's right.
And then you guys get to really minister and bless these families. Because you guys aren't in it, yes, you want to make money, you want to be a sustainable business, but you're in it to provide great home and living environments.
Well, honestly, Ryan, we believe all good business is about adding value to other people's lives, right? I think we've got this idea in business, who's the bad guy in almost every movie, right?
The rich guy.
The rich business guy, right? Yeah. But so it's this idea that is pushed out there that business is about me taking something from you for myself, right? But that's not good business. Honestly, unless you're corrupt, you don't last in business that way very long. Yeah. Business is about me adding value to your life, right? And in turn, I'm compensated for that. But good business, we both come to the table with less and leave with more, right?
That's right.
So that's really what we believe about the marketplace, and we try to live it out. We're imperfect people. We don't always get it right. Yeah. But our hope is that the people who live in our apartments both get high quality, respectable, affordable housing options, and that we can make some profit in the process, and then half of that profit we give away.